Hi, today we're going to talk about pricing yourself as a small business owner. And I feel like I'm bringing something a little bit different to the table today than what I've heard other educators talk about in the past. Today I'm going to talk mostly about market value. So with other pricing yourself talks and podcasts and videos that I have seen in the past, a lot of educators talk about the cost of doing business, the CODB equation, where you kind of like plug and chug some numbers of how many clients you want or how many hours you want to work, and all these different things into the equation. And what I have found is a bit of a problem with that is that you kind of have to create your hourly rate. And when you're just getting started in your business, you may not know what it is. And I feel like market value is going to answer a lot of questions for like, how do you find your hourly rate, or how can you price yourself that will allow you to have sustainable growth and constantly having clients and work and just help you to grow in your business. So hopefully this is super helpful for that. So the first thing that I recommend when you are just getting started in your small business is to price yourself lower than your competition. And I know that I'm gonna ruffle a little feathers when I say that, but hear me out. If you are just getting started with your small business, you probably don't have a lot of reviews, you don't have a lot of content, you don't have a lot of clients, you don't really have a lot of content to share with your potential clients. So pricing yourself lower than your competition is going to give you that boost of clientele from the beginning, albeit it might not be your ideal client, but it is clients. So I always recommend to price yourself a little on the low side just to get started so that you can get experience and you can gain clients quickly. Gaining experience is very important when you're starting your own business. Perhaps you have been a technician. What that means is whatever your craft is. So like if you're a photographer, perhaps you've been a photographer for someone else, or perhaps you've been second shooting, perhaps you've done this for a hobby for a long time and you feel like you want to charge what you're worth, as people say. But you can't decide that. You can't decide what your craft is worth. The market has to decide that. So if that's a whole nother thing I want to talk about. Let me stay focused. So to gain experience is so crucial because, and if you've read the book E-Myth before, then you kind of know what all this like word lingo is. But if you're a technician, a photographer or whatever, and you're moving into a small business manager role, you're going from technician to manager, it's a huge learning curve. You don't know what you don't know, and running a small business has so many different facets that you probably won't even expect. So I feel like gaining that experience in the beginning is so crucial because it kind of releases the pressure of charging a certain amount of money. So if you're charging less than your competition, it takes off that pressure to perform at a certain level. And it kind of takes off that pressure of what clients are expecting out of the experience. And why I think that is important is because you are going to mess up. You're going to learn things the hard way. It's just inevitable when you start a small business. You are going to forget something. There's gonna be a kink in the client experience. You are going to want that. You don't want a lot of pressure by charging a lot of money right out of the gate because you're gonna mess up. That's just, running a small business has a high learning curve. So you want to kind of take off that pressure in the beginning to kind of get your bearings, know where the kinks are, kind of refine your client experience before you raise your prices. So what I recommend raising your price very incrementally, about maybe like 3 to 5 bookings. This will allow you to have a sustainable growth, and it will also allow you to kind of let your clients down gently. So those clients who are with you from day one, they were the first ones in the door when you were pricing yourself lower than your competition. Then every 3 to 5 bookings, you raise your prices incrementally. Maybe they'll still be with you for a few years, but eventually they'll probably have to go find somebody else because you'll be out of their price range. So it's just a way to kind of maintain relationships. So what I did is I raised my wedding packages $300 for every 3 to 5 bookings. So as you're incrementally raising your prices from starting at lower than competition, then you're incrementally raising your prices. At a certain point, you are going to find your market value, which is what you want to find. So your market value is what the market, so like the people, the potential clients, deem your service is worth. That's how you price yourself. It's the market that will tell you how much you should charge. So as you are raising your prices, at a certain point, you are going to see a leveling out of bookings, or maybe even a drop in bookings. You're gonna notice if you're booking a certain steady amount, and then all of a sudden it kind of levels out, or it even starts to drop. That means that you found your market value, and that's a good thing. And do not ever be afraid to lower your price back down to what it was. So maybe you raised your price and you saw a huge decrease, then it's totally okay to go back to that price. There's no shame in that. So at that point where the market is telling you your value, so you now know what your service is worth. From there, if you are still like you're not at your goal, or you're not at what you want your earnings to be, at that point you will need to change something if you want to charge more money. So maybe you elevate the client experience, or maybe you add a product or a service that could elevate the value so that you could charge more. So that's how you kind of keep growing, keep going up to raise your prices. You'll also, at that point where you level out when you find your market value, you'll kind of have to up your marketing game. So maybe you've just been like getting along with like word of mouth, and people have just been like telling others. But once you find your market value, you'll want to kind of up your marketing game and kind of get into new avenues. Maybe that is Instagram or TikTok, or really having relationships with wedding planners, just to try to like break into a higher price point. So although I think the CODB, or cost of doing business, equations are totally helpful, I think that it is assuming that you know what your hourly rate is. So if you are still feeling lost after kind of Googling and like learning about the cost of doing business equations, and you're like, well, how do I know how much to charge? Hopefully this was helpful on finding your market value and letting the market tell you how much to charge. I would love to keep doing these weekly chats, but I need to hear from you on what you want me to talk about, or maybe you've seen one of my chats and you want to learn more, or you want me to dive deeper into one of those. Please comment below. I would love to hear what you want me to talk about. And if you had no idea that I do these every week, if you go onto my profile, you can find the midday chat stories, and just check them all out. There's tons of them. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.